then you'll see. You'll all pay for what you've done to me. He laughed aloud. Oh, hi! I didn't see you come in there. Well, I'm just making... Never mind what I'm doing. Today I'd like to talk to you about homeschool. Let me try that again. Hi, my name is Luke Bruce, and today I'd like to talk to you about homeschool. I'm something of an expert myself, having graduated third in my class. I had two brothers, though. I'll touch upon some of the basics for those without a frame of reference. And I'll also cover why parents choose to go this unconventional route. Some may feel that homeschool is a superior method of educating, while others simply see it as a means for constructing a tight-knit family unit. My aim today is not to refute these claims, but rather to highlight some other problems that perhaps go unnoticed. 1. Great idea, poor execution. Whether from lackluster funding or because tenured educators lack the proper motivation, the broad consensus among Americans is that public schools are lagging behind. Private school is a terrific alternative, provided you have a large sack of money that's just sitting around and it's collected so much dust and you have no idea what to do with it. You just want to give it to somebody and never see it again. Homeschool, on the other hand, is significantly cheaper, and this makes it a sort of doable middle ground. With curriculum templates online, ready to go for you, you're really just talking about buying textbooks, pencils. Come to think of it, a lot of this is stuff you already know. A is for apple, B is for ball, 2 + 2 is blah blah blah, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, easy peasy. Still, before hitting proceed to checkout, it is perhaps worth stopping to ask yourself the following question. What do I know about education? Up until this point, would I have described it as my passion in life? And what will I do in the unlikely event that this whole process I'm about to enter into becomes a bit more daunting than I had anticipated? To use myself as an example, when I was learning to read and I was a little guy, maybe 6 years old, I would get very confounded and downright indignant by the fact that C and K, sometimes they make the same sound. Very astute, 6-year-old Luke, but you still have to learn to read, you dumb Something like this happened basically every time we sat down to do a lesson. And so the lessons eventually just kind of tapered off, which was great for me because I did not want to do schoolwork when I was a child. Most children don't want to do schoolwork and they'll just wear their parents down. Luke, how can you be certain that most children don't want to do schoolwork? Because many of my homeschooling friends also did this, and as a result, many of them, by the time they were 15, were still illiterate. Not great. Not great. There were a few of my fellow homeschoolers that managed to stay on track with their lessons and even aspired to go to college, but it has to be said that they also started attending high school when the time came so they could receive a diploma. Big waste of time because I've got it here somewhere. There it is. You can just make one and nobody can tell the difference. That's pretty good, actually. Certificate of graduation, I even spelled it right. Awarded to, and then I wrote your name here because that was what the template that I was kind of basing this off of said. I scratched that out because I only had the one piece of paper. And then I put Luke D. Bruce for high school. My job interviews that I take that to, they go a little something like this.
All right, everything with your work history seems to be good. We checked all your references and says you really worked at these places.
And I've got a high school diploma. You want to see it? And then they say,
Oh, not really.
here it is. I didn't draw it by hand or anything.
Well, it's odd that you say it like that, and it does look pretty hand-drawn.
Well, it's not. Are you calling me a liar? Because that would be a rocky way to start this working relationship. The fundamental mix-up, I think, goes as follows. Public school denies parents the ability to tailor the curriculum to their child's needs. All the same, parents are not typically trained educators. While this may not prohibit them from selecting the most appropriate curriculum for their child, it does not automatically follow that they are the best suited to implement it. To put it simply, 12 years is a long time to put all your eggs in one basket and let things ride. The public school system, for all its flaws, is, at the end of the day, an institution. As such, it's less vulnerable to derailment by a single catastrophe than an individual, and therefore, a good deal more likely to see your child through to graduation. The next most pertinent question, I believe, would be to ask ourselves, why does a person seek a formal education? In order to get the answer here, let's say that you have a son or daughter, they're a senior in high school, but they're flunking math, on the verge of missing graduation. Now, the chances are you're upset with them, but you're probably not upset because they can't find the square root of pi. You're upset that they are going to miss graduation. Not without good reason either. Most people confess that they forget most of what they learned in high school anyway. So it's not necessarily what a person learns, but rather the doors that a formal education opens. With that in mind, if homeschool's claim is that it educates more completely and more effectively, it still has to be said that it is lousy with accreditation. The best it can do is prepare a student to take the SAT or ACT. Taking a path so fraught with those aforementioned pitfalls in order to reach the same destination, well, that only makes sense in the most dire circumstances. And those dire circumstances, I suppose, would be if you lived in a very dangerous school district, or maybe you live in a plastic bubble, and if you go outside the plastic bubble, then you die because the air molecules get caught sideways or something, and you know, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Yeah, I turned out just fine. Probably the most common fear among adults is being raped by a clown. No, is that just me? Okay, probably the most common fear among parents considering homeschool is that it will cripple their child's social development. Ironically, this is far and away the easiest of potential issues to nip in the bud. Avoid names like Malachi or Ezekiel. And if the ink is already dry on their birth certificate, and I'm too late to tell you any of this, simply avoid cutting their hair at home with a bowl. Enroll them in a club or a team. I myself was in Boy Scouts of America for 7 years. Don't put them in Boy Scouts now. It seems like it's not going in a great direction. I would advise against it. I'm sorry. Don't put them in scouting! It's still Boy Scouts. That's the real trick. It's called Boy Scouts. The brand is kind of dependent on you calling it Boy Scouts, and yet it's not scouting for boys. So when you do, you lose the brand recognition, and it's called scouting, because if you call it scouting and it's this new thing with a new name to match it, then, well, you're not going to be able to coast on, no, they'll keep the old name. Yeah, because they want to coast on the momentum of a more successful, more beloved program. Yeah, it's like Ghostbusters. They didn't call it 4 ladies who are very funny and chase ghosts and they're very smart. In summation, homeschool is not for everyone. Point of fact, it's not for most. And though it is often done with the best of intentions, and at its core there is perhaps the kernel of a great idea, as it exists now, it is a steep gamble with a low payoff. Hopefully gains can be made in the not so distant future and we can stop sending your kids, I'm sterile, to the failing public school system where they can, it will chew them up and spit them out. And that part's bad.